What's up, everybody? I figured today would be a nice day for a Ubers battle, so that's exactly what I went looking for. And I actually found somebody that I fought yesterday in an Ubers battle. He totally massacred me with that team. But I had mostly UU Pokemon. I wanted to test out my Yveltal and my Giratina. He killed my Giratina yesterday because I was just misplaying the mess out of him. We're gonna go ahead and get right into it. So this time I'm actually just gonna lead with my Yveltal, because Yveltal, it does a lot of damage, but I figured out that this thing didn't have an item on it. I meant to put Choice Specs on it because Choice Specs Yveltal does a lot, especially with Dark Pulse and Oblivion Wing. So he leads off with this Groudon. He Primal reverses back into Primal Groudon, and I just went straight for a Oblivion Wing just to get as much damage off against this thing. And of course, this Desolate Land is going to come up. Everything is just going to be extremely harsh. It's scorching. My Yveltal is just going to have an unneeded 10. He's already dark enough. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this Oblivion Wing does nothing. And he sets up his Stealth Rocks, and this is just great. I have so many flying type Pokemon on my team. Well, not a lot, but I do have Talonflame, which is probably going to have to leave. It doesn't do too much. And I'm just thinking that this Oblivion Wing doesn't do crap. And I didn't know that I didn't have an item on it at the time. If I had an item on it, it'd be 2-hit KOing out of the ass. And I'm like, so I go for the Oblivion Wing as he switches out into Xerneas, and it takes it that well. There's another Pokemon that could 2-hit KO with the Choice Specs. And at this time, I still didn't know it was the Choice Specs. I mean, I didn't bother switching up moves. And so I'm just going to switch out, and I'm just going to go into my Groudon, because I know my Groudon can take a Moon Blast. I know this thing is not a White Herb. I mean, not a White Herb, a Power Herb, if I think. Yeah, Power Herb. What's the name of the move? What's the name of the move? It uses it so much. But I know it's not a setup Xerneas, so I'm just going to go into my Groudon, Primal Reverse, activate Desolate Land. I can take any type of Moon Blast from this thing. Well, I could take it pretty well, as that's what he goes for, and it does take a small chunk, but I'm not bothered by that. I know that this is not the time to go for a Rock Polish. If I go for a Rock Polish, he can just bring in his Salamence, intimidate me, and just pretty much stall me out. So I'm just going to go straight for a Fire Punch just to get as much damage, hope for a burn versus anything that comes in, as he does switch out into his Salamence. He does intimidate me, and I'm just going to go for the Fire Punch. And I really hope for the burn at this point, but I didn't get the burn, unfortunately. So I know this thing is going to either go for a Dragon Dance or just straight attack me with an Earthquake. So I'm going to go out into my Fortress right here, pretty much hoping that it goes for a Dragon Dance, because if he just straight attack me, the red card will activate it, switch him out, and I know I can't really take on that many of his other Pokemon, as he does Mega Evolve, and he's going to go for the Dragon Dance. And I know this thing, I can take on this thing with one Dragon Dance. So I kind of wish that I had counter at this point. As it goes for return, I would have been able to counter this thing and just murdered something. Well, I won't say murder, this is Pokemon. I would have just destroyed something, made it faint. So I'm actually just going to go for a Rapid Spin just to get these rocks off my field. These rocks really do not help me. They're just horrible. So I am going to go for, get off the Rapid Spin. And I actually just stayed in with my Fortress, because if he went for Flamethrower, I could switch out into my Altaria and set up on it. And a lot of people just set up on Genesect trapped in a Flamethrower. So he does go for the U-turn. I am able to live that, as now I'm just going to go for a Stealth Rocks. And I just wanted to get these Stealth Rocks up. I know Stealth Rocks can help a lot, get some damage against everything, as I do get up my Stealth Rocks. At this point, I know that I can't Rapid Spin versus anybody if he sets up his own Stealth Rocks, because this thing is slow. So he does set up his Stealth Rocks. I just figured that the best thing to do would be to go for Spikes, just to get some extra residual damage versus somebody, as it's not really going to come into play. So he's going to go for the Lava Plume, knock out my Fortress. Unfortunately, these rocks are here to stay on my field, so Talonflame is just going to be taking so much damage, and so is Yveltal, however you pronounce it. And I know Waveltal is probably the way you pronounce it. But I'm going to go into my Giratina. I need some residual damage versus this thing. Groudon is a huge problem except for my own Groudon. And I don't want my Groudon taking any damage. And I don't want to risk a speed tie. So I'm going to just go for a Toxic as it goes for T-Wave. Which is very unfortunate. Now this, my Giratina is slowed down. It's not doing too much. I could have played all this so much better. And it's just really unfortunate. As I know he's going to switch out versus this thing because it really can't do too much and I can get off a rest. So I feel it's best not to go for rest. I know he's going to switch out, so I'm just going to go for another Toxic as he goes out into his why am I forgetting all these people's names? He goes out into his Latias, and I feel this is so unfortunate. I can't do anything. This thing can just go for a defog. His Groudon is still at a high amount of health, so he can set up his own Stealth Rocks again. I have no Rapid Spinners, and I can't stop his defog. So I felt that this thing would probably go for a Draco Meteor. I don't know why, but it goes for defog. And as I went for the rest, I really wanted to get rid of this Thunder, this Paralysis. As he gets rid of all this, I can't set him up anymore. As I go for rest, but it doesn't do anything because my HP is full. And I kind of misplay. I figured that he wouldn't go for Draco Meteor, but he does go for Draco Meteor. And this would have been a perfect opportunity to go for rest. As I just barely lived this. I would have been able to get rid of the Thunder Wave. I would have rested up. I would have been able to survive another Dragon. Draco Meteor as I go for Roar instead. Just thinking that they'll probably switch out. As he goes out into his Salamence. And I'm looking really, really bad right here. I figured that it's best to go for rest just in case, not rest, Will-O-Wisp, just in case he goes for a Dragon Dance and gets greedy. But he just goes straight for the return. And that knocks out my Giratina. I'm looking really bad. And plus he still has that Arceus. Arceus destroyed my life last time. He really did. So I'm going to go out into my Yveltal. My Waveltal. As I'm still mad. At this point I figured out that I didn't have any specs. Because when I switched out, I saw that there was no item on it. So he goes out into his Xerneas. As I just go for an Oblivion Wing. I know I'm going to need my Yveltal at least. So I didn't want to risk a roll. Because I've been having so much. I've been so unlucky with rolls recently. It's just like they've been surviving so much. So I'm just going to switch out my Yveltal. I didn't want to risk this thing being faster than me and just go for the U-turn. So I just went straight into my Groudon. As this is not a bad point. Because I know he can't hit me hard with the Moonblast. As he does go for the Aromatherapy. And this is actually very, very great. He's getting rid of the poison and residual damage his other team has. But at the same time, if I can get a Rock Polish up, I'm not going to have too much trouble with his team. So he does withdraw as I go for the Rock Polish, which is great. I can outspeed his whole team pretty much now. I was thinking I could outspeed his whole team as I can just go for a Dragon Claw versus Latias and pretty much kill it. Latias cannot take a Dragon Claw from Primal Groudon. So now he goes out into his Arceus, which is, I needed to go ahead and get as much damage versus this Arceus as I can. Arceus is horrible. Arceus, Arceus, I think Arceus is so much better, so I like Arceus more. But it's really Arceus. So he goes for the Judgment. That doesn't do as much as I thought it'd do. As Fire Punch is a 2-hit KO. As he switches out into his Salamence, his Mega Salamence, as I'm hoping for another burn. I really am, but it doesn't really matter as it doesn't have Intimidate. So this thing is not a problem as I can just go for a Dragon Claw. But he switches out into his Yveltal. I figured that an Earthquake would be able to kill it since it's so much more since it's more powerful than Fire Punch. But I think Fire Punch does more damage thanks to the extreme sunlight. I didn't know this. I didn't know it had the same effects as Sunny Day, as I'm not sure. But it doesn't kill. He goes for a Moonblast. I know I can just barely live a Moonblast. And that's what I do. I live with like 4. And then I can just go for a Fire Punch. Kill this why did I say Yveltal? Kill this Xerneas. This is such a huge threat. Also, it's been taking hits all over, and that's not a problem. I can take out this Waveltar. Why do I keep saying Waveltar? I'm thinking about Waveltar too much. So he goes out into his Genesectus. I know that a Fire Punch can kill it, but this thing is unfortunately faster than me, and he does get he does kill my Groudon. Of course, it's at like 4 HP. So my Groudon does go down. That's unfortunate. Groudon could 2-hit KO a lot of his Pokemon. And so I figured that it's not good to keep it in. I mean switch it out, because it can't outspeed anything without a rock polish, and it can't take a hit. So he goes out into his own Groudon. This very unfortunately, I can't one-hit KO this thing. I know it's going to set up Stealth Rocks, and I don't have any spinners, and this is unfortunate. I went out into my Waveltar. If it was Specs, I would have been able to KO this thing with a Dark Pulse. And I was just hoping for a flinch at this point, but I don't get a flinch, and he actually sets up his Stealth Rocks now. Because I'm just going to go for a Dark Pulse now. So I'm looking very, very unfortunate right here. So now he goes out into his Arceus. He goes out into his Arceus, and I figured that it'd be best to go for U-turn. I was hoping that he went for an attack, but he just goes for a recover, and I'm just very, very mad. If I was, it's like I could have went for Focus Blast, but I didn't. I know this thing is a calm mindset. I didn't want to risk it missing. As I do go back, and I'm just gonna go out into my King Fluff right here, since I know I can live a Judgment from this thing. I've only seen this thing go for Judgment. And I'm going to go for a Frustration, as he does switch out into his Salamence. And this is very unfortunate also. I should have probably went for a Dragon Dance. Then I would have no problem versus his team. But I probably can't outspeed a Choice Scarf Genesect. So I do go for a Frustration. I can kill this thing. And he only has I think he has his Genesect and his Genesect and his, what's the name of it left? His Arceus. I'm just forgetting all his Pokemon. So he goes for the download, and he goes for Iron Head. So at this point, I know that I can go out into my Waveltar. I can kill this thing with the Oblivion Wing. So that's what I do. I go into my Waveltar. I shouldn't have went into Waveltar. I should have went into my Talonflame, because Talonflame can live a Iron Head poorly. But he goes for the Iron Head, knocks me down really, really low. And unfortunately, he gets the flip. He gets the flinch. That's unfortunate for me. If he wouldn't have got the flinch, I would have been able to kill this thing with the Oblivion Wing, just destroyed it. Well, not destroyed it. I would have killed this thing with the Oblivion Wing. So I go out into my Talonflame. I know I can take a freaking Iron Head, and he goes for the Iron Head, and he knocks me really, really low, and I can just hit him with a Flare Blitz. But I'm gonna die to recoil. This is very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate I got the flinch, and it's very unfortunate I forgot my Choice Specs. I have to bring my Waveltar back. I want to play him with the Choice Specs so y'all can see how much damage it does. But I did not get swept as bad as I did last time with the Calm Mind, against that Calm Mind Arceus. So that was a good match. Dee Train, he has his own YouTube channel. If you want to see some good content, God dang, if you want to see some good content, go head over to Dee Train's channel. It's exactly that. I'm probably going to put the link in the description. But thanks for watching.